Well, welcome to our final NAC Ask Me Anything of the spring 2023 semester. My name is Burcin Becerik-Gerber. I'm an NAC member and professor and department chair of the Astani Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering at the University of Southern California. So the National Academy of Construction was established to recognize our industry leaders. An important purpose of the Academy is to provide a network system of linkage between past and present participants in the construction industry. As such, we have established this NAC AMA to help transfer knowledge to our next generation of construction leaders, you guys and gals. The format of the AMA is simple. Our speakers will make a short presentation about a topic and their perspective on the industry. If you haven't already, please email your questions to nacama@colorado.edu, and Sandy will drop that email address to our chat as well. One student will win a $500 scholarship, which will be announced at the end of this event. It's my pleasure to introduce John Zachry as our speaker today. John is the chairman and chief executive officer of Zachry Group. Zachry Group provides engineering, construction, maintenance, turnarounds, outages, pipe fabrication, and other services across multiple energy, industrial, and manufacturing markets. The company employs over 20,000 people and has offices across North America and the Philippines. Additional affiliated businesses include oil and gas exploration, production, real estate, software development, energy transition, decarbonization, and consulting. John earned a BS in civil engineering from Texas A&M University and an MBA from the University of Texas, Austin. Active within the industry, John is a member of the National Academy of Construction and the Construction Industry Roundtable, and is a past chairman of the Construction Industry Institute. He serves on the executive committee of the Texas A&M University College of Engineering Advisory Council and on the board of directors of the Association of Former Students. John has many accomplishments, and I will just read a few and then pass it to him to give him a chance to introduce himself. John is a past chairman of the American Heart Association Southwest Affiliate Board and a past chairman of the Board of Trustees of San Antonio Academy. He is also a former member of the executive committee of the San Antonio Economic Development Foundation and the Alamo Area Council of the Boy Scouts of America. He is a past board member of the Texas Research and Technology Foundation, Clear Channel Communications, and the San Antonio Spurs. In 2022, John was awarded the ECC Achievement Award in recognition of his visionary leadership and lifetime achievements. Congratulations, John. John and his wife, Laura, have 3 sons, and they live in San Antonio. John, with that, I'll pass it to you. I know you have a short presentation, and then we'll move on to the questions.
Well, thank you so much, Burcin, and good afternoon, good evening, everybody. It's a real privilege for me to be here today and speak to you. Hopefully, touch on a few things that are of interest to you. I might add the thing that I'm maybe most proud of that might be relevant to this conversation is my wife and I have 3 boys, and they're all engineers. So somehow there's something either in the water in our house or in the gene pool.
I also have 3 boys, John. I hope they all become engineers. I'm a little biased.
We'll talk afterwards, Burcin. Well, as Burcin mentioned, I have a really short presentation. And all I really wanted to do was give you a quick flyover of our business. Before I do that, I would mention that we're a family owned, privately owned business. We're headquartered in San Antonio. We really don't do any business in San Antonio. Our business and our customers and our markets and the vast majority of our employees are scattered around predominantly the U.S., but Canada and as Burcin mentioned, the Philippines as well. We will celebrate our 100th anniversary next year, so it's been quite a ride. And over the course of that period, I've got one quick slide that'll show a few projects. We've done a lot of different things throughout that time, and certainly the early days are just like any other startup business or entrepreneur endeavor. You do what you have to stay in business, and so as a result of that, we've got a really broad and interesting, I think, background. And I'll sort of finish up the presentation today. Let's see if I can share. There we go. Did that come up, Burcin?
Yes.
Okay. All right, good. Well, I'll finish up today talking a little bit about what I think the future is. And all of this I hope to do maybe in under 10 minutes. Let's see if I can. So let's start with services we offer. I think the best way to think about us is we're an EPC project-based business. EPC is the predominant delivery model in the industrial and manufacturing markets that we serve. Essentially, it's a turnkey provision of all those things: engineering, procurement, and construction. We also provide startup services as our customers start up these facilities. But we also offer fabrication, that's predominantly pipe and small module fabrication, maintenance, essentially outsourced O&M under long-term agreements, largely to many of the same customers that we provide engineering and construction services for. Turnaround is a term used in these industries to describe taking down these plants and doing an intense amount of work 24/7, essentially extending life, technology, change out and upgrade, debottlenecking, those kind of things. And so a range of services for predominantly these industries: refining, chemical, that's fine chemical, petrochemical, industrial manufacturing, ag processing, food and beverage, and other consumer packaged goods. What I would love to talk about and really defines the future of our business is what's broadly called the energy transition. For us, we focus on markets such as carbon capture, hydrogen and ammonia, biofuels, biochemicals, and nuclear energy. We do nuclear engineering, supporting the development of small modular reactor technology, and ultimately, as those technologies are deployed, we hope to participate in the project build out. But lots of exciting things. Another way maybe to think about who we work for today, we're doing work for Hershey, the chocolate manufacturer. We're expanding one of their candy bar lines. We're also doing one of the largest projects in the U.S. for ExxonMobil. So that kind of defines the range of things that we do. I have to talk about the way we think about business, not just the engineering business or the construction business or all the services that we provide throughout the life cycle of a facility, but really a business. And if there's interest and questions around, how do you manage a business for 100 years, and where do you go from here if you've been around 100 years? And I would answer that by saying we have an active 100-year plan that we're working under now. So we have a real expectation to be around for a long time to come, many generations from now. But all of that has to be based in a belief about the way business needs to be conducted, and the way a business needs to be positioned in whatever markets we serve. What's most important is the way we think essentially about values. We can talk more about any of this that you want. Being active in a broader community is not just important to us, but an obligation we feel we have. And frankly, we believe is part of this maybe virtuous cycle that we're in that fuels success. So there is no way for us to talk about the good things that we've done for our customers, maybe the good things that we've done with our employees, and where we're going without also talking about being part of a broader community, a larger community, whether that's a local place, small town where we work, or the rest of the planet. Couple of just some of the things we've done in the past. Some of this may be familiar or resonate with you. Maybe most of it you hadn't heard of before, but just gives you a sense of the range of things we've been involved with throughout our history, working for the U.S. government. Early on in the early distributed power industry, we were the original contractor at the DFW airport, working in Egypt, doing some stadium work, did a huge job in Saudi Arabia for the city of Riyadh. We built both the current Moscow and Beijing embassies that are active right now, built irrigation canals in Sri Lanka, and we built Spain's first nuclear power plant in the early 70s. So just gives you an idea what the history of the business is. Now I've got a few photographs. I'm not going to spend much time. Some of these photos have a quick project profile and maybe just glance a little bit at it. Just gives you an idea, the scope of work that we do. One of the things that is a little bit unique for us is that we provide the full scope of craft and professional services on these projects. So we're a direct hire. We subcontract very little, so there may be a few technical or a few specialty items in a project scope that we would subcontract, but most of the scope is ours. And when we talk about a peak workforce here of 3,500, those are all full-time employees of our business. LNG project that was completed a few years ago. The only thing I would make note here is just to try to get a sense of what the scale is. These are absolutely huge project. Again, from a direct effort standpoint, over 30 million hours. Again, that's all within our scope. Another project currently underway, large project for an important client in Southeast Texas along the Gulf Coast. And here are just some pictures of various projects that we've completed over the years. And I'll just roll through these real quick. Again, just to give you a sense of the kinds of things that we do. All these photos, by the way, are taken by our corporate photographer, and that's again something we think is important to not just document the work that we do and the people who do the work, but try to capture the aesthetic of our work product. A lot of people would look at that and think it looks horrible, but we kind of find beauty in the work, and I think that explains maybe a little bit of why I and others might be attracted to this kind of work. Again, just looking at this, the scale, you can see all crafts working, civil and structural. We're setting some equipment there. Lots of cranes. Crane efficiency is huge on a project like this. That's a completed project along the Gulf Coast. Two projects, again, kind of capturing the aesthetic. One of these is in Florida, the other along the Gulf Coast. Another completed project. And I put this one, I think this is last, just to show you that all these big things that we've been looking at over the last few photos, they all start usually with just some bare ground. And so when we first come in, we do all the site work typically. Sometimes we'll sub some of that, but do all the site work and all the concrete work and piling and all the rest of it. And that concludes my presentation. So I know that was a lot, Burcin, but gives you
Oh,
an
that was
idea at
great.
least of the kinds of things that we do. And I did want to explain a little bit about what our kind of business philosophy is and sort of what guides our decisions.
That was a great introduction. Thank you so much for John. So I'll get started with our questions here, and I think following that overview, Majed Al-Reshudi's question is a good start. So Majed asks, if you could share one critical insight or experience that has significantly shaped your approach to managing complex projects and fostering innovation, what would it be, and how has it contributed to the continued success of Zachry Group?
Well, it's such a good question. I find myself wishing I had more time to think of a better answer. So let me just give you what's top of mind, and that is that even with the advancements and evolution of technology, it still takes people to deliver these projects, and so there's don't overlook that part of it and the importance of creating a team. We all know that particularly when solving complex projects, cognitive diversity of point of view is really important to produce the best solutions and best outcome. The trick is, how do you have a team and invite diverse opinions and manage that diversity when people feel strongly about their points of view? And that's where the critical element of team building, team connection, little bit of leadership comes in. But at its root, the insight is, you have to embrace the people aspect of the business. You cannot manage a project from a spreadsheet. You cannot manage a project from an office looking at data only. You have to look at how that data is brought to life and what the root is and the source of that data, and you got to engage at that level as well. So that's my answer.
That's a great answer. So you're telling us focus on the team and the people aspects. I have here many questions. It's a little bit contrasting, but I think it's a good follow-up. For example, Joe Kasperson is asking something about technology and AI, artificial intelligence. AI is starting to become more and more popular in the construction field. What do you think is the biggest challenge with this, and how much of the workforce will disappear in 50 years?
50 years, how much of the workforce will this? Well, most of the current workforce will disappear. So I think from starting at that point, the challenge is, how do we attract new people to this industry? And I think adoption of technology is part of the answer. People want to be involved in things that are efficient and effective and have a technology component to them. AI in particular, I think, is interesting. Honestly, it may take most of 50 years to get broad application of AI producing measurable results in a broad context. Maybe it doesn't take 50, but I think one of the challenges right now is the reliability and trust in the existing data that any kind of AI platform would set. Our thought about AI and its application is really to start small and look at some specific applications of AI, even machine learning in some instances, and start looking at how we can integrate those elements of technology into the delivery of our service. It doesn't work well if there isn't broad confidence and trust in the output from AI. That's part of the issue, I think, right now. It's just going to take a bit of time. But there is no question that AI will be prominent in the future of our industry. We're just going to have to find some wins, some short-term definable applications that produce advertised results, generate some confidence in those results, and then we can start using it more broadly.
And you mentioned in your previous answer teamwork and building teams. I think it will be an interesting challenge, AI, human teams, if we get to that point, because I think teamwork is going to be still very important. So there are many questions about your path to success, John. So one question from Valerie Castro is, what was the defining moment or action that you feel led you to the success you enjoy today?
Well, there's a lot of smaller questions sort of implied in. Let me answer it this way, and if I don't hit the mark, maybe Valerie can come back. So I'm third generation in our business, and so I grew up around a business that did some of what we do today, but frankly, most everything we do today didn't exist 30-something years ago when I came in the business, and that just has to do with evolution and sort of both of a business and technology, as we've been talking. I graduated college with an engineering degree. I went to work for our business in the industry. I traveled around a lot. I moved project to project. I've lost count, and I'm sure I've embellished in my own memory how many times I moved, but I'm going to say it's probably a dozen times over 5 years before I went back to graduate school. So the pivotal point for me was being in graduate school with an opportunity to make a different choice in terms of career. And what I found was I missed the kind of people that are attracted to this industry. I missed the kind of people who are attracted to construction work. And by that, I mean optimistic, positive, can-do, hardworking people. And so as I was sitting in Austin in graduate school, what I was really thinking about is how could I go back to those people and take hopefully some newfound, at least some insights and some energy, and make the business a little bit better. But that was the period, being away from the business and the industry for a short time, where I concluded that was where I was supposed to be. That was my place in the world, and so I came back and have enjoyed every day. No, I can't say I enjoyed every day. I enjoyed most of the days.
Yeah. And that was how many years ago, John?
Burcin, you're gonna. That would have been when I came back. It was 32 years ago.
Sorry, maybe that was.
Oh, I don't mind.
That was an added question there. I was asking because Samantha Nelson has a linking question. I don't believe you started 30 years ago as a CEO. What was the driving force behind you choosing to be a CEO, and how do you balance it all, is her question.
Yeah, it's a great question. Let me start with, I used to say that I had performed myself virtually every job that exists in our company. I can't say that anymore because we're bigger and more diverse, and we do lots of things that didn't exist again when I came in. But my point was that I did a lot of entry-level jobs. My first job after I graduated college with an engineering degree was as a painter's helper on a offshore platform. We were doing some marine construction at that time. So I was an hourly worker with an engineering degree, and that was a fantastic experience. And again, it taught me a lot about the work that we do, but more importantly, about the people who do this kind of work. So I don't think I ever had an aspiration I didn't look that far ahead. I looked at the job I was doing and what was expected of me and the people that I worked around and what could I do to help them and support them and make them better. And it just, my career progressed, and I found myself one day in charge of a business. That's been a long time ago too, Burcin. That was, I was counting it up before the call, maybe 24 years ago, and which is a lot of responsibility for a young guy who was completely ill-equipped to lead a large organization. Thankfully, we had a bunch of great people who supported me in that, and we've made it. The idea about balance, I would just tell you, it's the wrong metaphor. It's the wrong way to think about it, because there is no balance, particularly early in your career, and there shouldn't be. You should go to work, and work should be your focus if you love what you do. And if you find yourself unable to commit a big part of your life to the work that you're doing, make note of that. Doesn't necessarily mean you're in the wrong place, but there might be a suggestion there that if you find yourself not looking forward to the work itself, maybe there's something that's a better fit for you out there. Sort of flash forward to what I do now. Every day there's an imbalance. What I try to do is balance things out over a period of time, and it takes effort, and it takes work, and it takes commitment, and it frankly takes some help. Someday I hope you all have a partner in life, and that partner you should invite to help you manage your own life better. And I've been blessed with one that's been a lot of help in that regard. So, but it's crucially important to have a broad set of interests in your life that you feel strongly about, that you love. And so whether you're at home or traveling with your family or with friends or at work, you're loving the moment. And that's what I've been blessed.
I'm very pleased. Somebody else said there's no balance. I scared away people with that sentence. But I learned something new recently. Instead of balance, I learned that I should think about integration.
Yeah.
Not try to balance, because balancing is very stressful, but integrating different aspects of your life. And I think you answered it really well. If you love what you do, it doesn't, you don't feel like balancing all the time, right? And in aggregate, as you said, you're trying to do this. So I have two very similar questions from David Jaros and Oluwatobi Osilaja. David is asking, what is the best way to move up through the company, and how do you set yourself apart from your fellow coworkers? And Oluwatobi was asking, how can a new employee stand out and become noticed in large company? Are there any secrets to this? So very similar questions. I wanted to ask them together.
Let me say that I can't answer that question for all organizations. Maybe there are different answers in different organizations. So let me answer the way that I answer employees here who ask me the same thing. In various forms and at various times in their career. And my answer includes some version of the following. First is that your focus has to be on making the team better, making the organization better, and organizational broad success. If you're spending your time worrying about yourself, then it's going to detract from how you integrate with your team members, how you support your team members. Another way maybe to think about this is the idea of working largely selflessly. So take yourself out of the equation. Think about objectively what would you expect if you were a business owner of an employee? And again, some version of you make the team better. And you know what? There's a lot of ways to make the team better. You can work smarter, and many of you probably are smarter, and you will work in an environment whether you're the smartest one, but you can't just rely on that over the course of your career. You've got to find a way to uplift your work group and the organization that you're part of. And I think the way you do that, particularly over a period of time, it's not about having a good day or a good week. It has to be sustainable, which means if it's going to be sustainable, it has to be your feeling about your work and your career and the organization that you're a part of and the people that you work with. You've got to care about those things. You cannot fake caring over the long term. So my answer to people that ask is you've got to care. And if you find yourself unable to care, then again, that's probably a signal to yourself that you may be in the wrong spot. But what do I look for? I look for people that make our organization better and more successful. Everything we do is team-based and collaborative. So the impact that individuals are going to have is largely through the team. So truthfully, for me, most of the people that I know of that come to my attention are brought to my attention by their coworkers and their colleagues. People say, hey, John, you need to keep an eye on this person. It's not people advertising for themselves. It's not people calling attention to themselves. If you're good and you make the organization good, people will notice, and the organization will notice, and the CEO will notice.
That's a great answer. I think finding something you are passionate about and you care for is definitely the key for many different businesses that I know of. So Brandon Murillo is asking 2 questions. What were some major challenges you had to overcome on some projects you were on? Was there a common theme or just a specific, they were specific to each project? And the second question is, what is the biggest difference from when you started in the industry to now?
Yeah, there's a lot there. Themes through look, the nature of project work is it never goes according to plan. Which is not at all an argument for not planning. In fact, our ability to respond to changes is maximized when we have a plan. So you must have a plan, even though things are the world will, at times it seems, conspire against you. There are things that are happening. There are things outside of your control. Most recently, COVID-19 impacted every project we work, and still is to a large extent. So don't worry about what you can't control. You worry about what you can. Thematically, I could probably sort of get things so general that, there are some themes, but truthfully, in detail, no, it's a wide range of curveballs that you'll be thrown in the project business. But frankly, therein lies, what's so interesting about project work and why it takes people like you to be part of the team, good problem solvers, good thinkers, with an element of creativity. You will be able to rely on experience, past experience, yours and your teammates, but you also want to think about innovative ways to respond to changes, or better yet, anticipate impact and begin to mitigate the effects before it even gets to you. before I answer the next question, I do want to say that one of the things I've found myself thinking a lot about of late, I mentioned COVID-19, which was a huge challenge for our business, for lots of businesses, lots of companies in our industry. And we're thankfully working our way out of that. We've got a really strong backlog and really great prospects. But I found myself thinking, I wished I'd been through this kind of significant challenge earlier in my career, where I would have a longer horizon to apply all the things that I've learned during this period. And I think the lesson for you, or at least what my message to you might be, is look for opportunities to be challenged. Choose paths, choose opportunities that you're presented with, even if they look like they're going to not work out well, even if others are saying don't go near that. Think about what it might teach you, and you'll hear from a lot of people who have been around a while that what they've learned through challenging experiences or even failures, mistakes, is far more impactful as a life lesson, as a professional lesson, than the things that went really well. So the time to make big mistakes is earlier in your career. And I'd encourage you to put yourself in position where you're going to be challenged, where there is a possibility, if not a probability, of failure. Don't let that define you. Let it form you. Let it teach you, and apply that throughout the balance of your career. I'm sorry, Burcin, what was the last part of that question? Or?
The question was, when you started your career, what was different then compared to now?
You know, almost everything on the surface looks different. But I think I'd go back to maybe my first answer about the importance of people in the system that we're trying to manage to deliver complex projects. I don't think there's a big difference in human nature. I think that's a constant. I hear a lot of people talk about differences, generational differences. I tell you, all the same things were said when I was your age coming into the business. And look, there are some things that are different, but there's a whole lot of things that are exactly the same. And I think that most people deep inside are still motivated by the same thing, still respond to the same kinds of things, and so the people part of it is the same. Almost everything else is different.
That's an interesting answer. Everything is different, but the people part is the same. I'll think about that a little bit more after our call. So I have two questions that are good as follow-ups to each other, and they're sustainability related. Paritosh Patel is asking, how can we encourage more businesses and industries to adopt sustainable practices? And what are some of the benefits of doing so? And Fraser Ayala is asking, what steps are being taken by your company towards sustainability?
Great questions, both. Honestly, I'm not sure that. Well, let me start as a preface. I think the largest area of growth for our business, in fact, I know it is because I see it in our deal pipeline. I'm looking at backlog additions. It's going to be in the sustainability arena. That's why we created a sustainability solutions business focused on decarbonization efforts throughout a range of markets. That's the high growth. That's what younger people, our younger employees, are attracted to. That is attracting investment. This is happening right now. In terms of what we're doing, We're being asked by all of our customers. In fact, this is a huge issue right now. These same questions, and not just sort of providing a statement that sustainability and reducing our carbon footprint, and not just environmentally related kinds of questions, but diversity, equity, and inclusion questions. How are we managing our business to ensure that we provide equity and of opportunity and run the business in a broadly inclusive way? These are the questions that our customers are asking us, even as a private business, because the shareholders and the investors in those businesses are asking the same of them. And that, given the amount of money that our customers spend with us, we typically are what's called a tier one supplier. So it's all rolling downhill. It doesn't happen in all of our contracts, but it will soon. That not only are we having to provide what are our policies, but how are we measuring the effectiveness? We're participating in benchmark, I'll call them studies and information gathering, all because our customers are committed to a not just a lower carbon future, but a better, more sustainable future. So how does that affect us? It makes us better. One of the things that we've found is that if you just recall briefly, I know I flashed through them, but what we stand for as a business, frankly, are all the things that we're being asked to provide. We care about the environment. We care about people. We care about our communities. And in a different form, that's really what all these sustainability questions and others are really about. Are you running your business in a way that makes a net contribution to the rest of the world? And our belief for some time has been, it's not enough for us as a business to provide a great service to our customers. It's not enough for us to provide a great place to work for our employees, one that allows all of them to pursue and achieve their professional and even some personal aspiration. Those are all good things, and frankly, really just table stakes for being a bit. We have to do that if we want to survive as a business. But if we want to be around another 100 years, we also have to recognize our responsibility as a member of a broader community, and we better be doing some things that makes a contribution to community at a local level and then at a global level. That was a long answer, Burcin. Sorry, but these are.
That is great. That made me think.
Well, thank you. Good.
Definitely. We have a question from Raha Haji Sharafi. What do you believe are the most significant challenges facing the engineering and construction industry? And what strategies do you think companies like Zachry Group can adopt to address them? I mean, you mentioned sustainability, not necessarily as a challenge, but as an opportunity. This question is specifically asking about challenges facing our industry.
Well, there's lots of challenges. I think there was a time when just delivering the project close to on time and close to on budget was probably acceptable. But those are the exceptions today. There are implications to the work that we do. We just were talking about a lot of them. So again, it's not enough just to do the technical work and deliver the work. It's how you deliver the work that's also important. For some businesses, that creates a set of real challenges. It introduces complexities to how you manage a business. There are some generational differences. I did say I don't think, basic human nature is any different today than it was, at least when I started my career. But there are some generational differences. There are things that energize and motivate, and things that feel rewarding to people now versus maybe a generation ago. The idea of purpose is critically important. Again, I would tell you it's been important to us as a business. I've always felt like that all of our employees, we're obligated to provide two things to our employees in addition to paying them on time and all the stuff that you would expect. One is a view of our roadmap. Where are we going? I think all of our employees, because they're signing up essentially to take this trip with us, and we are explicit that we're a better company, we're a better organization when people stay here a long time. I want people to stay here. I want to invite them in. I want them to have an open mind. I want them to conclude that we're the kind of business that's a fit for them, what they want to do, what they believe in. So purpose is critically important to that. The second thing is, I think employees are entitled to know, how are we doing? How are we doing against our plan, and how are we doing against that roadmap? Are we making progress? Are we moving? So all that drives communication. The fact that employees would come to work, just like I was talking about with customers, that they have an expectation of their employer, it's not brand new, but that's fairly new. There was a time when people were just grateful to have a job. And there are still times when you just have to work because you need an income, you got a family to support or whatever. But the idea that individual employees would be selecting the employer based on a set of broad criteria, not just does the check clear every week, but what do they stand for? And are they making progress towards contributing to the kind of world that an individual employee would want to see? That's really important. So all of a sudden, even as a private business with no external shareholders, I have a responsibility to have a feel for how do 20,000 employees feel about us as a company? How do they feel about what they need from us, what they want from us, what they expect from us? And that's part of what I have to do. So back to what's challenging, physics works the same way today that it did when I started. So that part's exactly the same. The math works exactly the same. People largely, but all this layering of things on top of all that, yeah, that's very new and very different. And businesses are going to have to figure out how they can meet this sort of multiple bottom line, not just delivering projects on time and on budget safely, and not just operating profitably, but are they hitting the mark with respect to all these other expectations, either that employees, customers, or the business owners have for them. And it makes for an interesting set of challenges. And John's bias is a great, that's why I like employees with your background. And I interviewed a great employee yesterday who had an anthropology undergraduate degree, and he's really smart, and I have no doubt he can do some great things. But I think people that are interested in the kinds of things that you all are predisposed to be able to solve not just the technical challenges, not just the project challenges, but the business challenges facing companies in the future.
That's another great answer. And I can't believe we're actually at our limit. I feel like we just started talking, and I'm going to end with a great question. Just to wrap it all, I think the theme of this tonight's conversation, and then I'll announce our scholarship winner. Mia Heron is asking, when you think back on your career, what would you tell the new generation about to motivate to join our industry?
I would say one that it's amazing and it's fantastic. It's a business where you get real feedback. You get to see a tangible product of your effort, and that's really meaningful. To this day, when I go somewhere where I worked, I feel it when I see something that I was a part of 30 years ago. And don't underestimate how meaningful and how rewarding that would be. Also, don't underestimate, excuse me, how challenging the business is. And don't back away from those challenges, because whether you know it or not, you have what it takes to meet those challenges. And when you fail, and hopefully you will, you'll be better and smarter for the next one. So don't quit when you have a tough one or when you have a hard one. And the last thing I'd like to say, if I might, Burcin, is just the thing I would tell. It's what I would tell myself if I could talk to young John when he was 23, and all of you, and that is be kind to yourself, and don't. All of you, I'm sure, are competitive. I know you're all smart, and I'm asking you or suggesting you not back away from challenges, even though you might fail. But don't let that define you. Don't let that sit inside of you. Don't let that label you in any way, even to yourself. Use that as fuel, as motivation, to be better next time and even more resilient. So
wow.
Be kind to yourselves.
Wow, that's an incredible ending to this conversation, John. Thank you so much. We have a winner of our $500 scholarship, and that is Robert Schneider from Clarkson University. John, it's been inspirational. Thank you so much for sharing your experience, your expertise, and insights. And also your hour with us. We appreciate it so much. I think on behalf of our students and NAC, and it's been a great conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Burcin. It's been a pleasure. I've enjoyed it very much. Let's do it again sometime.
Yes, absolutely. Take care.